He goes, hey, I know I still owe the tax. I just don't have to pay it right away. Talk about that for a second, Dan, the power of compounding interest and just understanding that building a capital gains tax solutions, trust, we used to typically use a DST. When we do it with an installment sale method, how that all works.
Yeah, the reason we have a 30-year track record of, all the audits coming out, no findings, no change. The reason it's legal is because we're not evading the capital gains tax. We're not avoiding the capital gains tax. We're deferring the capital gains tax. So what Nick said, he said, yeah, I know I still owe that tax. Yeah, he does. But in the meantime, that money he owes in capital gains tax is invested and working in his favor. So if anyone listening can imagine you have $1 million tax, you can pay that $1 million tax and you lose that million, but you also lose everything that million's going to produce for you in all the years ahead. So that $1 million at 10% is going to kick off $100,000 in interest income. That full $100,000 goes to you if you can hold on to the million. And so that's the power of deferral. You defer that tax, and it allows the power of the investments and the power of compound interest to have that money grow and grow and grow, and it grows in your favor.
Hey everybody, Brett Swartz and Dan Palmer here with Capital Gains Tax Solutions, and we're doing a client highlight series today, and we're focusing on two of our clients, and we're excited to share the story with you. And our real goal is to share a story and then give a few kind of key points for their deal and to see if we can connect and help you make an impact for your exit. Check out this video right here, and then we'll talk all about it.
Taxes never go away. Yeah, right? They're never going to go away. And I know I still owe the capital gains tax. I understand that. But I get to pay them when I want to pay them.
Now let's talk about like the return on investment. That tends to be the next biggest challenge for people. They go, man, but the fees, Nick, isn't it expensive? Or what's your take on that?
We looked at the fees, right? And at first blush, the fees seem like, wow, that seems like quite a bit of money. But I ran the spreadsheet, right? Of if I just pay the capital gains, right? And then I invested the money, and in the same fashion that you would invest the money. And then the very end, even after paying the fees, I'm almost 500,000 more ahead.
All right, so let's break this down, right? So the first thing is key is talking about capital gains tax, Dan, right? So capital gains tax, he said interesting. He goes, hey, I know I still owe the tax. I just don't have to pay it right away. Talk about that for a second, Dan, the power of compounding interest and just understanding that building a capital gains tax solutions, trust, we used to typically use a DST. When we do it with an installment sale method, how that all works.
Yeah, the reason we have a 30-year track record of, all the audits coming out, no findings, no change. The reason it's legal is because we're not evading the capital gains tax. We're not avoiding the capital gains tax. We're deferring the capital gains tax. So what Nick said, he said, hey, I know I still owe that tax. Yeah, he does. But in the meantime, that money he owes in capital gains tax is invested and working in his favor. So if anyone listening can imagine you have $1 million tax, you can pay that $1 million tax and you lose that million, but you also lose everything that million's going to produce for you in all the years ahead. So that $1 million at 10% is going to kick off $100,000 in interest income. That full $100,000 goes to you if you can hold on to the million. And so that's the power of deferral. You defer that tax, and it allows the power of the investments and the power of compound interest to have that money grow and grow and grow, and it grows in your favor. As Nick said, he said, I ran the numbers and I looked and I had an additional $500,000. That's a very, very powerful tool to build wealth for your family.
Absolutely. So let's talk about how you actually wanted to consider structuring the promissory note payment. And this is what most of our clients typically do. They'll take interest or partial interest payments so that their cap gains is completely deferred for many, many years. So, I like the analogy, if a tree falls in a forest, Dan, and no one's around it here to make a sound, does it make a sound? If the capital gains tax is locked into the principal and you're only ever living off the interest and you're just paying ordinary income tax on the interest, which is something, you need to consider, that is a higher tax than capital gains tax. But if I have enough built up inside of the trust, oftentimes it's 20, 30, 40, 50% more, then the math goes in my favor if I have enough time. Time is that great denominator there, that if it's in your favor while you're deferring it all, then the interest that it kicks off every single year starts to compound. And that's the beauty of this deferred sales trust, the way that we structure it, in that the note itself can only, if we structure it in this way, only pay you interest. And we're talking about passing it to your children as well. And the same thing, they only have to pay interest if they don't dip into principal, and they can pass it to their kids. And so this becomes a generational wealth building machine, so much more than just, an extra 20, 30, 40, 50% more at closing. Second thing, Dan, on this that we'll touch on here as we go into the fee transition is the ability to, the way that we structure it, make the trust an investment and not an expense, meaning that oftentimes clients may even delay income for at least a year or two. So all of the interest can also be deferred for at least a couple of years. And then it can be partial interest payments. And that's another kind of compounding effect that if you got to peel the layer back. So talk about income tax deferral. And I mean, to me, that's the highest tax, right, Dan? And what could be sweeter than deferring income tax?
Yeah, so the capital gains tax, I mean, if they could defer the payments for 10 years, 20 years, I mean, it's literally going to be a life-changing growth within that trust. A lot of our clients do wait a year or two to start taking the payments. And in that year or two, the example I used before, first of all, with capital gains deferral, if you got 10% and it was $1 million and it kicked off 100,000 and you didn't have to ever take payments, we do require some payments in year 3 or 4. We can get into that later. But imagine just hypothetically you took no payments and that million kicked off 100,000 each year. It would be less than 10 years before you completely through interest earned back everything that you owe in capital gains. 10% a year, 100,000 times 10 is $1 million. It would actually be more because you're going to have the 100,000 and then you're going to have, that is going to compound also. So you're going to have 110,000 in year 2. So now it's growing if you follow the math. But on top of that, that interest is growing capital gains tax deferred, but also interest income tax deferred until you take it. So if you don't take any payments, it's capital gains tax deferred and that money's growing and compounding for you. You still owe the capital gains tax, but the government's let you hold on to it like a zero interest loan. It's invested, it's kicking off interest income for you. But then if you don't take the interest income, you're stacking on top capital gains tax deferral and interest income tax deferral. And now the wealth starts snowballing and rolling down that hill and your wealth starts growing. And that's really what Nick's talking about in the video. He's saying, wow, I ran the numbers. The numbers are incredible. I thought, yeah, there's fees. Nobody likes to pay fees, but it's not an expense really. It's an investment. There's a lot more money working on your behalf. You have control over when you access those funds. You only pay capital gains tax and you only pay interest income tax when you actually receive those funds. So you're in the driver's seat determining how much it grows before you take it.
Absolutely. And I'll add a couple things to that too. You can partner with the trust to go do new business ventures, buy investment real estate, start a company or business with a new partner or a son or a daughter or grandson, granddaughter. In other words, it's not as if, even if you're not taking the cash flow yourself, that you can't get this economic benefit. You can be paid through an LLC that's legitimately running a business for fair market, kind of wages. And it's like a family bank in a sense that remains tax deferred until you take personal payment. Now, if you're running a business and you're taking, you're making money there, you'll pay taxes on that, right? So that's something to understand. But the power of this is, I can maybe call it a 2x compounding effect, right? Because the first one is the cap gains compounding effect, deferred, and then the income part of it. And even when you start taking income, most of our clients will take partial interest payments. So we might have an interest rate of say like 8, 9, or 10%, but they may only take 3, 4, 5% payout. And the difference is also compounding and building in your favor, and it's owed to you. Now, the investments need to make the investments, and it's there's still risk there for the underlying assets to perform, but keep that in mind. Like this just puts you at a nice advantage. And then to the point where you said the fees, right? So the fees, we like to cash flow our fees. What we do here at Capital Gains Tax Solutions, where we're waiting about 60 days to get the trust up and running and earning, and ideally pay us at 60 days. In a perfect world, we'd earn enough interest within that 60 days to be able to pay for the fees and also be able to start paying you on the payout, depending on what payout you might be starting and when. I mean, this will be determined in the investments and the risk tolerance. So a lot of things kind of go into that, but we want to really get the trust working in your favor. One exercise to consider right now as you're thinking through this, because you might be saying, well, what amount is the right amount to take? Do I delay for a couple of years? Do I take some interest, partial interest? Well, I like to back up all the way and say, hey, what is your current truly passive income number? Are you earning right now 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 or more per month? And what is your ideal truly passive income number? And then what's the gap, right? So you'll do an assessment and you'll look at all of this income that's coming from different places. By the way, you might have an IRA that's going to start to kick on here, depending on what age you are and when that starts to pay out. And that's going to be some income. Social Security could be paying you out at a certain point, right? And so you want to do an assessment of not just what you currently have coming in, but also what's on the horizon. And then you want to do an assessment of what's the gap between where I want to be and where I'm at currently. And the beauty of the way that we structure our trust, and the beauty of at least the 1.0 version, is that it's adjustable with the payout, meaning it could flex one way or the other based upon these moving parts. And what we'd like you to find out is that if it's, let's say it's 50,000 a month and you currently have 20,000 a month that's paying out with other real estate or other businesses that are passive, and now you're selling something that could produce 30,000 a month within the trust, you get to your $50,000 number. But fast forward another 5 or 10 years, and you're at a certain age where you're going to start getting IRA distributions or Social Security, or your spouse is going to get those as well. And let's say that accounts for 10,000 more per month. Well, and you knew your number was 50. Well, the trust with the installment sale can be adjusted to go back down by 10,000, and now you're back to that 50 number. And in other words, we're being as efficient and optimized as we can be, and it's able to move with your seasons of life and also your seasons of passive income. Dan, any thoughts on that and just the power of that flexibility?
Yeah, the flexibility is key because we don't know what's going to happen down the road. We don't know what our needs are going to be. We don't really know what all the other streams of income are going to be. But a lot of our clients who are older, they're loving the legacy building value of what we do, because they're like, hey, I don't need to take all the interest. I already have other streams of income. So if I can defer that and allow it to compound, I'm going to be even more ahead down the road. And so, Nick's a great example, and I would encourage anybody watching this to go to our YouTube channel and watch the full interviews with Nick and Jeannie Katzer. They're wonderful people. Funny story, Brett. Nick and Jeannie were the first people I met when you were recruiting me to join you. And I was very nervous because I value my relationships, and I was like, I don't know if I want to join something unless I'm really sure it's a great thing. And I ran into Nick by the elevator and I said, hey, how has this impacted your life? And he was like, I just wish I would have known about this years before. This has been the greatest thing. And so for me, that was a hugely encouraging thing for me to say, we're helping people. This is changing entrepreneurs' lives. This is something they've been looking for as they've 1031, and they're going, I'm kicking the can down the road. There's got to be a better way. And so to meet somebody who had done multiple exits with us, who was like, this is one of the greatest things that has happened to me, really encouraged me to join. So seeing the video for me is a little sentimental, because I'm like, that was a huge key for me joining you all those years back.
Absolutely. Let's keep going on here with Nick and Jeannie to hear them talk a little bit more, and then we'll keep kind of doing a little play-by-play analysis
At the
here.
end of 20 years than I am now. So why would I not do that? And besides, in anytime I want the money, I can say, Brad, we're ready to take that distribution.
Yep. Yeah, we kind of refinance the promissory note, and we can do large sum distributions, or we can refinance and have a larger payment out or a smaller payment out. It's adjustable along the way. It does take a trustee to approve. That's part of what keeps it in the integrity of the trust.
Right.
But you can also set the note for shorter term periods. And so sometimes people look at it and go, well, am I stuck forever in this? oh no, we actually do 10-year increments, right? But you can do a 5-year, 3-year, 2-year, even a 1 year, and then you can renew it at the end of that term every end of that term. And so it's a flexible way to do it. But at first blush, some people might look at the onion and not necessarily peel it back. But what I loved about what you guys did, you guys kept peeling the onion back, asking the questions, getting on the plane, getting your CPA, getting your attorney. This was a process. I mean, it was I feel like at least 3, 4, 5 months, right? But you had something else to say on that, Nick? Or
Before that, we were just talking about the fees,
yes,
what the fees cost, and then we got into when we can get a distribution. That's probably one of the other attractive things about this,
Mhm.
right? Is if we have another capital gains event in our life, I could say to you, Brett, I really want to pause these payments for a while
Right.
because else it's going to bump me up into another tax bracket and things like that. And that was, taxes never go away.
Yeah.
Right? They're never going to go away. And I know I still owe the capital gains tax. I understand that, but I get to pay them when I want to pay them.
All right. That is Nick and Jeannie Katz, everybody. You can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to learn more, to get started with your capital gains tax exit plan. We also have a book called Building a Capital Gains Tax Exit Plan that you can check out on Amazon. We have Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank, the book. It's cool. We hit #1 bestseller for Amazon, which is really cool. And it's my whole story about learning about this and really trying to give you all the secrets so that you can also accomplish this for yourself or for your clients. Just check that out. So a couple other thoughts on this. So Nick and Jeannie are repeat clients. And so since that interview, they did another exit with us. And in fact, they potentially might be doing another one. And for three different exits here. So we'll see what happens on this third one here. Um, it's it's been really a win for them, for their family. They're from Colorado, and Colorado has changed a lot in these last few years, especially with being a business owner or a real estate owner, and the amount of red tape and amount of challenges it is to be either a mobile home park or multifamily owner has increased drastically, and it disincentivizes a lot of landlords to continue to be landlords in the way that they used to be, and so to be able to exit, diversify the wealth, and be able to then live passively off of the income as the trust pays back slowly over time is transformational for families. And what we find is that when that truly passive income number goes up, you multiply your freedom and impact, right? And it unlocks the ability to do the things that typically maybe you haven't been able to do because a lot of your time and energy has been spent pulled back into the properties or the assets or the businesses that you run. And so Nick and Jeannie were able to exit a large business and a large piece of real estate, diversify their wealth, get some liquidity. And most of what they like to go into is real estate. And so we do mostly real estate investments. But for a lot of our clients, they want to do like a diversified portfolio of investments and work with the top financial advisors, which we work with, to be able to execute with this strategy. Dan, any last thoughts for this particular case study review and or encouragements for anyone who's listening and considering using our strategy, or even the advisors that are considering working with us as well for their clients?
Yeah, I think the deal stories are great because you're hearing it right from the mouth of the client. So you have the Katzers on here. They've experienced the gamut of the process every step along the way. They realize the benefit of it. It's not them projecting how it might benefit them. They've experienced it. So I would just encourage everyone, go to the YouTube channel and watch the longer videos. It's so encouraging. It's powerful. You can find different clients that are in a similar situation that you're in, and you can listen to their story, and it answers a lot of questions that you're going to face as you go through the process. But if you don't want to watch the videos, Brett and I are really good at walking you through each step and making sure you understand and feel comfortable every step of the way.
Yeah, and real quick, just as a kind of a sampler, here's just our YouTube channel playlist. If you just search client success stories when you go to Capital Gains Tax Solutions YouTube channel. And then you're going to see Nathan Judge, and this is Warren and Catherine. This is Joe, who's a financial advisor who helped his client Jeff. This is another one of our clients, Jim. This is Nick and Jeannie's full episode right here that you can watch. This is Tom, top developer in Austin. Staub out in Texas. Ike and Warren and Gary. Ron. Shay, David, and Dave. I mean, these are just clients that you can
people,
go.
yeah.
Yeah, these are great people, Kent and Gannon, but Sumet and they're clients of ours out of San Diego. So you can go here and just spend some time watching these and see if it resonates and answers a lot of your questions that you might have. And then, of course, if you have a live deal of $1 million net proceeds, $1 million gain on the sale of business, it could be digital currency, it could be real estate, it could be a primary luxury home, and you're an advisor who's looking to grow your business, well, we want to work with you and teach you how to work with us, where you could be the advisor and we could be the trustee. That's our role, and we all work together. I'm Brett Swartz. He's Dan Palmer. Appreciate everyone listening and watching out there. Again, go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com to get started, and we will talk to you all again real soon. Bye now.